Watching McKinnon and McDavid skate is otherworldly. This was the biggest game of their career. This tournament has done more for hockey than anything in the last 10 years.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Double D Report. Me and Dean are back for our emergency pod, and we need to talk about this electric game. This is why the NHL is climbing up there for best sports right now. Over the NBA, obviously over the MLB, because the MLB's not going on, but it's still better than the MLB. And without the Eagles winning the Super Bowl, better than the NFL.
Okay.
We obviously both predicted that the U.S. was going to win.
Yeah, we actually did some good predictions, me and you. We kind of said that it was going to be a 3-2 game. We both. I was pretty emphatic that it was going to be the under here, which was 5.5, and that hammered was smashed. So, kind of knew this was not going to be a blowout of a game. Knew it was going to be close. You did predict overtime. We both predicted the U.S. Canada did wound up winning in the end. Did just want to say, though, however, I did promise everybody that I was going to wear the USA jersey. I spilled beer on it, so it's currently in the wash. However, I'm a man of my word, so I'm still repping the U.S. So please forgive me for that. But anyway, it was a great game. It really was. This was all facets. I'm happy to talk about it for the next 15 minutes with you because it truly was great. It was great for the sport. The viewing numbers are not in as of yet. We should probably get those in the next couple of days, so we'll touch on them in the next podcast. But I'd have to imagine, just by all the videos on social media, all of the hype around this game, that it definitely exceeded the 10 million viewers in the last USA versus Canada game last Saturday. So definitely going to be curious to see what those final numbers are when they come in.
Yeah, obviously, we did, as you said, we both predicted it was going to be a low-scoring game because they both had, I would say, good goalies for the series. Bennington and obviously Hellebuck. Hellebuck still had, even though with the loss, he still had a great tournament. I believe he still went into the game with a 9.37 save percentage.
Yeah,
or .993, which is very good, obviously, but I just want to put all respect to the Canadian team going into Boston, which was loud as shit. Obviously, any hit that one of the Kachuk brothers laid, or pretty much Brady, because Matthew didn't play a lot because he was injured. They were just getting electric, and it was loud in that stadium. It was fucking shaking.
Yeah, it was a great atmosphere. You could hear the crowd quite literally cheering and chanting USA through the television set, and they even outperformed the Star Spangled Banner person who sang it. You could hear the stadium singing over the person. So it was an absolutely electric performance. Look, Canada returned the favor, right? The US went into Montreal and beat them in the Bell Center. Canada came into Boston, beat us in our home field. So definitely, look, it still shows that Canada is still the class of hockey. They proved it in this game. They took pretty much everything that we were able to give it them. And it's going to be a really fun time over the next 11 months because the Winter Olympics are right around the corner next year, and we're going to have obviously more teams added, whether that be Switzerland, Germany, Chechnya, maybe even Norway or some other European countries. It's still to be decided if Russia or any form of, a Russian entity is going to be in this field. It doesn't look too great. However, we're still going to have an awesome tournament next year. So this was a very nice precursor tournament to see what these teams had to offer for next year.
Yeah. Well, obviously, I do want to talk about the first goal of the game.
Yep.
I think I forgot the stat that it was, but every single game this tournament, U.S. has trailed to start off the game.
Every single game this tournament, Canada has led.
To start out, yeah. It goes
Which
both ways.
is pretty crazy. Yeah, to your point, Jared, this game actually followed the exact blueprint as the first game between Canada and the U.S. until the second Canadian goal. Mm-hmm. Canada scores first, USA scores the next two, and then obviously there were some unfortunate different events that happened afterwards in the championship game.
Yeah, and one thing I really do want to say, obviously, with the MVP being Nathan McKinnon, which I think as I said, I predicted, I thought he was going to get it.
Mm-hmm.
The goal that I saw from him in that game was I've never seen like it was such a narrow space to get that puck through, and it was would you say top left corner?
Yeah, top left shelf. I mean, look, he shot it through. It must have been five or six bodies out between him and the net. Hellebuck really didn't have much of a chance on that one. He was pretty much screened and didn't see the shot coming at all. So, McKinnon kind of came around the bend and took a quick wrister, and it happened to find the top left shelf. So it was a great shot. Nothing really more that could be done from a goaltender perspective, just because of how much traffic there was in front.
Yeah, and there's obviously the young players for the USA, like the defenseman who scored.
Yep, Sanderson. Which, by the way, I do need to shout out our boy, which we had a question from early in one of the earlier podcasts, Bruce from Whitefish, Montana. It just so happens that Jake Sanderson, who scored the USA goal, a 22-year-old defenseman, was from Whitefish, Montana, which is absolutely fucking bonkers of a coincidence that we just happened to have somebody, ringing a question to our podcast, Derek, that happened to be from the same exact, not state, but town in the state,
That's
in
crazy.
Montana. It is crazy. It's just an unbelievable coincidence.
Maybe he knew him. Never know.
We're going to have to reach out to Bruce, me and you, whether it be through one of our channels, whether that be through YouTube comments or TikTok. We're going to have to see if he directly knew him. I knew Bruce was, I mean, look, Sanderson's only 22 years old. He's a very big bright spot on Team USA for years to come on that defensive front. So it's definitely going to be nice to see him in years to come for all the major tournaments that are going to happen.
Yeah, and that obviously Brady Kachuk, one of the Kachuk brothers, did score during the game. He scored the first goal. It was in a I would you say it was a back? It was like it's hard to describe the type of shot he got off.
I mean, Matthews made a good play around the net. He kind of just threw it out in front where there was a lot of foot traffic, and Tkachuk's stick just kind of hit it with a lot of the Canadian defensemen in front as well, and it just kind of trickled right over Binnington's right shoulder. So, look, at this when you get to a championship game, no shots are bad shots. So you kind of just get it to the net, see what happens, and that's what kind of happened. Honestly, with the first two goals, really, McKinnon's as well. You just kind of get it to the net, see if you could, get a screen or two, and see what happens. And that's what happened with that second goal with Tkachuk. So, look, definitely that was a grinded goal, and they needed that goal at the end of the first because for, I would say, 15 minutes of that first period, Canada pretty much dominated.
Oh yeah, they were
That,
putting a lot of pressure
yeah,
on them.
Yeah, they were in complete control in the first 15 minutes, and then Chuck scored that goal in the closing minutes, and the U.S. kind of turned it around for the rest of that period at least. But yeah, and then it kind of went into a second period where, sure, the goals were 1-1, but honestly, I would say Canada dominated the period. They were Look, and it showed on full display this game on what these two teams' identities are, right? Canada is the speed and the ability. That's what their team is built off of, and you saw it with McDavid, with McKinnon, with just a bunch of their speed defensemen when it comes to Makar and when it comes to, Devin Taves, Pareko, Thomas Hurley, like their speed, right? That's what they're built on. And then the complete opposite end of that is where the U.S. is built on defense, grit, and goaltending. And I think it's going to help the U.S. in the future because the U.S. didn't have two of their best defensemen play in this game, right? McAvoy and Hughes. And they're young players, and they're going to be on this defensive core for the next foreseeable future for Team USA. So the fact that what we were able to do in this game, and even all of the games with, I wouldn't say a depleted defensive core because they were still good, but our defense is only going to get better. And to be fair, it was still pretty great.
Oh yeah, they did obviously. It was a low scoring game. It wasn't like 6-5. It was 3-2. Good goaltending both sides, and that's the thing that's positive for like the USA side is that young players, the young defensemen, obviously not the. I would say the front is not young, But the defensemen are young, which is good to have in hockey, to have good defensemen at a young age to stay on that team.
Yeah, no, look, one defenseman in particular on the U.S. side, Jacob Slavin, he was everywhere last night. I mean, blocking shots, getting in front of pucks, forechecking, stick checking. He single-handedly defended multiple goals in the third period, one in particular against Crosby when he had a wide open net. I mean, this guy was electric on the defensive front. And then you got to look at it from this perspective, right? Most likely, when Hughes and McAvoy come to play for the Olympics next year, injuries bearing, injuries do happen. You're going to be replacing them over Fox and Faber, who in their own right aren't bad. Fox had a really poor game, but you're going to be replacing them with even better defensemen, if that even makes sense, which is crazy to think of. That's how good their defensive front is. So, not to mention, they do have the best goaltender in the world, right? Hellebuck. He made a lot of great saves in the first period to keep them in it when Canada was crashing the net completely. So it's definitely going to be a battle for years to come. It stinks that I know you mentioned it earlier that Matthew Tkachuk kind of had his injury woes, and he pretty much didn't play the whole second half of the second period, the whole third period, and the whole overtime. So that definitely did not help the first line. So hopefully we get a much healthier team next year, I would say. But that being said, look, you can't really use excuses in a championship game. Everybody's a little banged up, so.
Yeah. There's one obviously Binnington going into this game. Canadians and Americans obviously shut him down pretty much by saying and that he's not clutch enough. Because in the biggest games, like with his actual team, with St. Louis, correct me if I'm wrong, he's on St. Louis.
He is on St. Louis.
He's not. He hasn't he hasn't been clutch when they needed him to be.
Well, let's calm down with that. He is a Stanley Cup champion.
I know, but like I'm in the past couple of years.
Yes, he's definitely had his rough woes and his rough patches. He's also, he's a bit of a head case too because he does get angry a lot. He tries to fight goalies regularly.
I love it. I fucking love it.
And he gets into a lot of arguments on the bench with his teammates, coaches, and stuff like that. But sometimes that's what, like, the type of goalie you need. Look, all goalies, every single goalie that has ever lived has a little bit of psycho in them.
Oh yeah, of course.
They have to. It's just the way it works.
You're getting a
right?
puck shot at you at 100 miles an hour.
There was a point in the first period of last night's game where the puck was stopped in front of Hellebuck, and the ref is staring at him, and Hellebuck looks at him crazy eyes, and it's almost like I thought he was going to murder the ref.
Hit him with the stick, chop off his neck.
Look, that's just how that's how these goaltenders play, right? It's just how they work. But all props to Binnington. Like, this guy is the single reason on why they won in overtime, right? The U.S. was dominating overtime. It wasn't even close. Dominating overtime. Matthews had unreal chances in overtime to basically put the U.S. up and win this game. And Binnington came up every time and made a huge save until the final McDavid goal. It brings me to my next point that I wanted to talk about with you, Derek, is Austin Matthews, the captain of USA, is now 0-7 in Game 7s or winner-take-all games in his NHL career.
Get him off the team.
I mean, it's disheartening, to say the least, right? He did not have a great game by any means, right? He had that first assist with Brady Tkachuk, and that second assist with Sanderson, I should say, but if you're Austin Matthews in overtime and you have those three great chances, I don't give a shit about the goalie, if I'm being honest. You got to put them in the back of the net.
Yeah.
You got to put your team on your shoulders and put it in the goddamn back of the net. Yeah, you're the captain. You're supposed to be Captain America. Now you're 0-7 in winner-take-all games, and you start to have conversations.
I would blame the Maple Leafs for this.
I mean, you could.
Because he's just mentally distraught from them.
It's true. They lose to Boston and the Lightning every single postseason. Every postseason, without fail. So I get it. But at some point in your career, Matthews is going to have a big moment.
I don't know if you saw the camera angle to where when it panned over to Austin Matthews when Binnington made the glove save.
Yeah.
I just saw, just disheartening. in his face. I'm like, oh my god.
Look, you get to a certain point, especially when you're 0-7 at this point, you get to a certain area where you're thinking, Jesus Christ, what else do I have to do? Right? I'm all around the net. I'm putting up deflections. I'm sending it in, all wide open nets seemingly, and they just won't go in. I mean, you start to second guess yourself as a player too, and that's what we don't want, right? Because even though McDavid has never really won anything in the NHL, right? He lost in Game 7 last year, the Stanley Cup final. He still had his shining moment, right? In that last overtime when he was wide open in front of the net, no mistakes were made. He buried it, top shelf. That's what you have to do as one of the greatest players in the game. And Austin Matthews is going to eventually have to have that moment in his career, whether it's for the Maple Leafs, whether it's for Team USA. He's got to have it eventually.
Oh, 100%. But there's obviously, like, even going back to, like, McDavid, that, like, if you see, like, with him, put him with an actual goalie.
Yep.
And he's won, obviously, they won the championship. It's like seeing, like, how, like, the clutchness that some players have, like McDavid, obviously McKinnon, who scored the first goal, Sam Bennett, Crosby, all these players on Team Canada, they've been in these situations, they know what they have to do, and they pulled it off. Good for them.
Yeah. I think the experience and the Stanley Cups and being in those big time games definitely helped Canada in this one. Obviously, don't want to make excuses, but USA's defense is on the younger side. Almost none of them have been in Stanley Cup playoff. I mean, not playoff, Stanley Cup final situations. Hopefully, that builds momentum as they get older and as they continue to progress in the NHL, which it definitely will happen just because of the talent that they have. So, look, I said it earlier. Canada is still the cream of the crop, man. They proved it. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. This is now, they've beaten us in our last 4 finals with best on best, I believe now.
Yeah.
So it's going to take a lot to dethrone them. And that's just the fact of the matter, because even with Crosby retiring eventually, you're still going to have to deal with McKinnon and McDavid.
Which is, they're there for a long time.
They're there for another 10 years.
Yeah.
It's the truth, because of their speed, right? And because of their ability to put the puck in the back of the net. Watching McKinnon and McDavid skate is otherworldly.
It doesn't make sense.
They sift through defensemen like they're not even there.
Yeah.
And that's just how good they are.
Yeah.
To be fair, the USA's defense held them pat for most of the game, but push come to shove, McKinnon still scored through bodies. Push come to shove in overtime, somebody made a defensive mistake. I want to say it was Matthews, and McDavid was just wide open in front of the net.
I don't know how that happened. I was watching it. I was like, how is no one there?
And it sucks, too, because watching that game, right, in overtime, the first 5 minutes, we came out roaring. We had it. It was our game to take. It was quite literally ours. And as Binnington continues to make these great saves, all you're thinking in your head is, I know how this is going to end now.
Yeah.
Right? We had our opportunities, multiple opportunities, 3 just from Matthews. Like, you had it. It was there. And as Binnington keeps making these saves, the doubt creeps into your mind, and all you're thinking is, somehow Canada's going to get a bullshit tip-in goal, or somebody's going to be on a breakaway or wide open, and they're just going to bury it, and that'll be that.
Yeah.
And sure enough, that's what happened.
It's obviously disheartening for the U.S. seeing all these shots, on goal, all these chances. The one chance, well, I wouldn't say the one chance, but like within the first couple of chances of Canada, they score.
Yep. No, look, it's a shame. I want to props to the U.S. They played a very good tournament. Definitely the injury bug hit them a little bit. Tkachuk was a big loss. Having quite literally 2 out of our top 3 defensemen not playing in the final definitely hurt. But then again, no excuses, right? Everybody's banged up at this point in the year. This is supposed to be an all-star break, and these guys are going 100%, slamming each other into the boards.
Yes.
So hopefully next tournament, which is the Olympics, which is the big one, right? Everybody's going for gold. That would be the ultimate to win gold. get healthy, get your mindset. All these younger guys, this is great experience for them in knowing what this type of hockey is going to be, going against nations where players are fighting for their flag, for their people. So great tournament. I know we spoke. I don't want to get too in depth into it because we'll talk about the numbers on our next podcast, but really just want to commend the NHL once again. This was a slam dunk.
Yes.
They killed it. Absolutely killed it. Put hockey back on the map. Got people who don't even watch hockey to watch these games. Hopefully this will bring in viewers for the rest of the year. Hopefully this upcoming Stanley Cup playoff in a few months will be some of the highest rated playoffs of all time because of the viewers that they've gained. But yeah, that's really where I stand on that.
Yeah, and real quick, I just wanted to say, like, as you settled, like, this is considered an all-star game, and seeing all these players, even this, well, they weren't going for gold, they were going for a trophy. Seeing, like, I don't know his first name, but Point, when he dove,
Braden Point. Yep.
when he dove to slap the puck out of, I don't know who was gonna get it, but slap the puck out of the way, putting his body on the line, and when they still have a regular season to go, this was an all-star game.
Yeah,
It's
no,
just
look,
great to say.
you heard it from the players before game on both sides that this was for some of them, this was the biggest game of their career. So it didn't feel like a exhibition game. It didn't feel like an all-star game. This meant something to
This
them,
is a championship
right?
game.
Canada was carrying around that trophy one by one like it was the Stanley Cup last night.
Yes.
So don't ever say this doesn't mean anything to them because it does, right? And they were playing their hearts out. They were hitting each other on the boards, blocking shots, putting their bodies on the line. And that's just a taste of what we're going to see in the Olympics next year.
Oh yeah. In the Olympics,
When you're going for gold. Yeah.
And there's obviously going to be more. I don't know how many teams. I don't know if they confirmed how many teams there are.
Not yet. So they did confirm the next World Cup of hockey is going to be in 2028. And it's going to be 8 teams. They didn't mention all 8 teams quite yet. However, it's the Olympics. So a lot of teams are going to be in it, whether it's, I mentioned a few of them earlier, Chechnya, Germany, Switzerland, Norway, even maybe Latvia, who has some of those, NHL teams out there. It would be amazing to have Russia in here, but that's all dependent on world political views and having, geopolitical stuff settled out within that region. So unfortunately, that's kind of out of our hands. Because I always felt that if Russia or the Soviets aren't in it, it's kind of a depleted field, right? Yeah. Because they are a top 3 team in the world.
It's Canada,
right? We had
USA.
So yeah, it's Canada, USA, Soviets, or sorry, I shouldn't say Soviets anymore, but Russia, right? So you have some of the greatest players in the NHL right now who didn't play in this tournament because they're Russian, whether it's Ovechkin, Artemi Panarin, Igor Shesterkin, Nikita Kucherov. Like, these are prime-time players who didn't play because they're not allowed to play yet. So hopefully that gets settled soon, and hopefully we get Russia back in these tournaments, and it really becomes a barn burner.
Yeah, and just overall, NHL, you did a phenomenal job.
Yep.
Phenomenal job. Even, like, leading up to it, they promoted it very well.
Yep.
They during the games, the announcers, the commentators, everything. It was perfect.
Yeah, no, look, it's great for the game of hockey. It's nice to see all of these games were nationally televised, TNT, ABC, ESPN. All of them were promoted heavily by non-hockey sports, entertainment media people. Charles Barkley, Stephen A. Smith, regular interviews with players all over social media. This was a huge deal for the game of hockey to put them on a map globally, not only globally, but within the United States, where it's still fluctuating in between trying to beat out NBA for ratings during this time of year. And not to mention that, I think the TV deals that the NHL have done are great, continuing to have playoff games and normal Saturday night games on ABC, ESPN, and TNT. Huge for the game, right? And I also heard rumors that the MLB is canceling their contract with ESPN for Sunday Night Baseball. So that's just another area where the NHL can gain viewers in.
Mm-hmm.
So props to the NHL. Props to Gary Bettman, who's the commissioner of the NHL. Props to USA, Canada, Finland, Sweden for really giving it their heart and soul into these tournaments, because not only did you play for your country and support your country in the best way possible, but you grew the game. And that's really all we can ask for as NHL fans.
Yeah, and I think both of like our overall consensus is that this is the best thing that we've seen in hockey in a long time.
This is the most that this tournament has done more for hockey than anything in the last 10 years.
Exactly.
And that's not an exaggeration, and it's true. And for anybody out there who's wants more, you're going to get more, right? This is not the last time we're going to see US versus Canada. We're probably going to see them in the Olympics next year again, whether it be in a semifinal, whether it be in a final gold medal match, whether it be for a bronze, whatever the case may be, you are going to see them play again. So this was just a taste. Enjoy it. Join the NHL fandom. Go watch NHL games. Go watch the Stanley Cup playoffs. I promise you, you won't miss out. And get ready for the Olympics next year.
Yeah. And correct, is the Olympics in the U.S. Is it in the USA this year or no?
It is not. It is in Europe. I'm going to confirm the place right now. I'm pretty sure it's in France. I'm wrong. Northern Italy. So similar to how this format worked, there will be no NHL All-Star game next year. They will be traveling to Italy February 6th to the 22nd. So this is going to be a 2.5-week thing once again. And that's where they will be playing out in Italy for the Olympics.
That's great to see. I fucking love it.
Great to see.
All right, Dean, I think we've hit every point that we wanted to about this.
Yep.
Overall, phenomenal job by the NHL. You brought in a fan of me. I'm going to start watching a lot more games, seeing like how electric it is during the games. I used to always put it aside and only watch the playoffs. But start watching the NHL. See, even just sit down and watch one game. A local team that you have near you. Say if you're in Pittsburgh, watch a Penguins game. If you're in New York, watch a Ranger game. If you're in Jersey, watch a Devils game. Or Colorado, watch a Colorado game. This sport has been underrated for the past couple of years. Very underrated. It's been put behind them. With baseball, basketball, the NFL. And it's starting to creep up they're doing a lot more for fans than what other sports are doing.
Yep. Agreed. No, this was great for the game. Phenomenal tournament. Hopefully people saw the competitiveness and tune in for more. That's all we can ask for. And for all USA fans out there, don't worry. We're going to be back. It was a really great showing. Canada's a great team. Congratulations to them, but we're going to be back. Don't worry about it.
Yep. Congratulations to Canada, and still, USA did a great job. They obviously didn't come out with the win, but they still did very good. So, obviously, Dean, any final messages to anyone?
No final messages. Like I said, congrats to Canada. Big win for them, obviously, continuing to, be the gold standard in this sport. And it's going to take somebody else to dethrone them, and we can only hope that it's going to be 2026 Olympics.
Yep. I'm going to be looking forward to 2026, and I hope everyone else is. So, everyone, like, subscribe, follow us on TikTok, and especially, we're going to be posting a lot more videos and speaking a lot about the NHL.
And Derek will eventually get to that Spotify thing.
Yeah. If I stop being a lazy piece of shit and do it.
Which those are like plus 500 odds. So
no, that's
we'll
like
see.
Plus 20,000. But hey,
yeah.
Like, subscribe, follow, and I don't think there's anything else I want to say, but fuck the NBA, and yeah, fuck you, LeBron. Peace.